Hi, it's live Twitter reactions brought to you by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. EA on Twitter. Guys, this is freaking insane. How can these guys keep getting pass after pass? They had a legitimate starting quarterback, and they traded him for peanuts, and he threw for 41 touchdowns. This has to be the last year. They cannot be a part of the rebuild. It would seem, again, you went from, I don't like it when you go from one extreme to another, because then it'll sound like it's almost like Rasputin almost. And I know I've said that before about you-know-who out there in San Diego. But I'm thinking, I don't like firing guys, but I also want them to have success and not just wait around for something that isn't working or doesn't seem to be working. So it's a very weird needle to thread, because I don't want them to start the season on the hot seat. I think it's a waste of time, waste of everybody's energy. If you think that if you're in charge of the Browns and you think you're going to start a guy in the season on the hot seat, just fire him in the offseason. You should have just fired him over the winter. If you're going to next season going, well, they got to start off so-and-so or their ass is getting fired, then just fire the guy.
Yeah, Kenny, I agree with you there. I think that would make sense. But I don't think as many coaches are on the hot seat as the Vegas sportsbooks say, or as we say, or the fans say. That doesn't mean that owners can't change their mind, because we know there's like 10 coaches who could get fired every year. I do not think their ownership groups come into seasons thinking, this might be the year if we don't get off to a good start. I think that's sports talk fodder for us. But then when it happens and the owners have to be there, they have to be on these calls with all of their executives, and then they see the numbers, they see the fan engagement, they see merchandise sales, they see all of that stuff. And then I think, Jimmy's there more than most now, because this is Jimmy. This is what he's doing every day. He doesn't have Pilot Flying J anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You see him. He's at minicamp.
Life, yeah.
Do you know how many owners are at minicamp? There's a very small percentage. And he's there, and he's taking inventory of all of it. Now, you could argue, maybe is that a good thing or a bad thing for Kevin Stefanski? I don't know. But I will tell you this. If right now, if you were to ask Jimmy Haslam and have him be truthful, I think he would tell you he has the utmost respect and he has trust in his coach and his GM, despite 3-14.
Well, because you don't.
But that can also change drastically halfway through the year.
Because we had to learn a lesson years ago. You and I maybe is where you don't fire guys because you're mad at them. I can't just willy-nilly fire people because I'm mad at them. I know fans can, and they try to all the time. But I have to make a decision. Yes, I have to make a decision based on whether or not I think that they're going to be the best person to lead my franchise in multiple aspects and multiple jobs over a period of time. Because I don't want to, it's not my goal to have to fire somebody. So if you're bringing him back, yeah, and I've said it before, like he has to be the big one. It would mean more to me if they were guaranteed 2025 and 2026. But also, a lot of 2025 is going to play in to how I feel about 2026. Because as of right now, like, Shedeur and Dillon, I'd like to give them a chance. More than likely, as of right now, you're drafting a quarterback in the first round next year. Well, there's got to be something that tells me that one of them is the right guy, or both of them are the right people. Not the quarterbacks. I'm talking about head coach, general manager, which means the entire front office team and the entire coaching staff, for that matter, because they're in charge of both of those things. Something has to tell me. Like, you could win 7 games this year, which is more than what Vegas has yet, and I think more than what a lot of Browns fans would have yet. You could win 7 games, and I could look you dead in the eye and go, Kevin is safe. And you're still drafting a quarterback next year, because I can look at it and go, hey, Shedeur's fine, but he's not. I would not let him start over other guys in the NFL, or I would not let him start instead of these guys coming out of the draft. Same thing with Dillon Gabriel. But Kevin worked with him, and you can tell the offense is taking care of him as best they can. We just need an upgrade at the position to go younger. And I can look at myself in the mirror and say, should I keep Andrew Berry in charge to find that young guy? That's where there could be a split. I do not think that they are a package deal. A lot of people believe that they are attached at the hip. I think that both would be evaluated separately if I were the owner of the Cleveland Browns. I don't want to turn them against each other. I know that they work well with each other. They're thought partners, if you will. But I also got to know, hey, I could look at the end of this season and go, man, Kevin's got a good grip on this. We've made mistakes here and there. Kevin's got a good grip on this. I want him to be in charge of whoever we take or whatever we do, and that's it. I could look at this and go, hey, these players are really, really good. What the hell's Kevin doing? I could also see it and say, hey, these players are really, really good. They won 7 games. They're young. We had things not bounce our way. We had injuries wherever. I don't know how the season's going to play out, but certain draft picks played very, very well. And say, both these guys need to stay.
But you asked me if
there's so many different outcomes. I just don't want to start the season where they're both on the hot seat.
Yeah. You asked me if they're a tandem deal, though, in the end. I still think, obviously Stefanski, I think, would go first if things went off the rails, if it were another bad season, if it looked anything like last year. But then I do think Barry would be out at the end of the year. I do. I think there would be a total reboot. Might not be at the exact same time, because it rarely ever is. But I do think it would mean, I shouldn't say house cleaning, because they could always go with somebody under Andrew Barry afterwards. And
they've done that before.
And that would mean scouts stay. That would mean, but if you weren't happy with the drafts, then would you really want the scouts to stay? So it's always that balance.
Yeah, you always play with that. But again, who's the one who makes the decision in the end? There's definitely people who've worked under general managers who have not been great at being general managers. There's definitely guys, really good scouts, really good personnel people who have worked under guys who just weren't as good as they were. And they ended up being better at their jobs than their predecessors were for it. So you have to take that into account. But like Dale hits it out of the park. He says, Ken, you're right, LOL. Brian Daboll starts the season on the hot seat, and he's going to get fired. And he's got a rookie quarterback. Mm-hmm. You traded back into the first round to go after a quarterback in a class that we didn't think it was a really great class. And he's right. Brian Daboll starts the season on the hot seat. So a guy who needs to develop like Jackson Dart, I'm going to fire his head coach and offensive mind halfway through the year and then expect that he's just going to be able to raise the tide and lift this boat up, that him and Joe Shane will be out of a job too. Pay attention to the Giants. That's asinine. That is dumb. That's almost what we did with Baker Mayfield. Baker nearly got himself out of it. Then we had 2021, and we've had everything since, where Baker's turned out to be a pretty fine quarterback down there in Tampa Bay. But we've done that. We've beaten that horse to death a million times over to where it actually came back to life. Pile my arrives again. Pay attention to the Giants this year with this team. If we're paying attention to ourselves, look at what they're doing. If Brian Daboll does a good job with Jackson Dart, maybe Jackson Dart takes off, that's fine. I don't know if I really believe it, since all they have done throughout the season. Once OTA started, they kind of were quiet. But, man, leading up to it, it was nothing but why they didn't take Shedeur Sanders instead of why they took Jackson Dart. I pay close attention to the Giants. It was ridiculous to me. And if they fire Brian Daboll a month into the season or halfway through the season, buddy, you're setting your guy from behind. And if he were a number 1 overall pick, I could try to say that that's what comes with the territory, because you're not being taken by a great organization. They went back into the first round. They got you. You're at the back end of it. We knew that it might be overdrafting city anyway, because with all these guys, including Dylan Gabriel, for crying out loud, it was just that type of class with QBs. You're setting these guys up for failure. You know what you're really doing? You're setting these guys up for failure with your organization, and then they get a little bit of time to air out, and then they go to another organization. They end up having some success, and people are blaming you, or why couldn't you get the best out of them? Hello, we went right through it with you-know-who down there in Tampa Bay. It's gone on with Sam Darnold. It's gone on with Geno Smith. Hell, in Cleveland, we're hoping it's going to go on with Kenny Pickett. You don't want to be a part of that. So as distrusting as we are about the head coach and general manager, Jimmy has to think completely differently from that. There's a lot of opinions out there, and a lot of them are good, solid arguments about why you don't trust these guys. I totally respect it. You're tired of losing, and what you're really tired of doing is getting the excuses for losing. Why it didn't go our way. Because you want to win. It's pro sports. They're paid to win. At some point, you have to judge them on winning. It's insane not to be able to do that. But as we start the season, my owner of that football team cannot have firing guys in his mind. He cannot have firing Kevin Stefanski or Andrew Barry or any one of their people around them in his mind. If that's a thought, we're going to head down a real bad path. Grin it, bear it, no matter what you have to do. If you start to feel throughout the season they've lost touch, then fine. But damn it, I cannot be doing this and thinking that these guys start on the hot seat. Because if they start on the hot seat, then you're already thinking about firing them, and they're already fired. And you'll find reasons. We do this in breakups all the time. Think about your old relationships you were in. You knew that this thing was going south. You start to try to find fault with people, why you're going to go away from them. You do it. And you will do that if you own the football team with a head coach you're thinking about firing.